Everyone, welcome to Ian and Friends. I'm FloBikes Senior Editor Ian Dille.
And I am Michael Sheehan, Ian's friend. Today we are going to recap the men and women's races at the 2019 Strade Bianche, and we are going to discuss whether this race deserves a place among cycling's monuments.
We are going to start with the women's race. This was defined by two big storylines for me. First off, Annemiek van Vleuten is the strongest rider in the world. Right now, I get that this is only the first Women's World Tour race on the calendar, but she pretty much crushed all comers. If you go to I think it's the 12-kilometer mark where she launched her race-winning attack, she is clearly head and heels above everyone else. Made Marianne Vos look silly. Kasia Niewiadoma also right on her wheel and then ridden right off her wheel as Van Vleuten soloed to the finish to the Piazza del Campo in Siena and claimed really just an incredible victory. She's only been training for 10 weeks after breaking her knee at the World Championship road race in Innsbruck, and everybody else coming into this race or out of this race into the rest of the season has got to be on the lookout for Van Vleuten. It's incredible what she did on Saturday.
Yeah, it was just a show of absolute pure strength from the two-time reigning world time trial champion. The big losers on the day were Boels Dolmans. They had three riders in that lead group before Van Vleuten made her winning attack. And it was really the 2017 and 2018 World Road Champions trying to chase her back, but they were just no match for Van Vleuten. She rode away from Chantal Bloch and Anna van der Breggen. They were working for the rider who went on to get second place eventually. That is Anneke Langeveld for Boels Dolman. And honorable mention to Kasia Niewiadoma, who for a fourth year in a row landed herself on the podium of Strade Bianche.
Yeah, and this isn't to take anything away from Anneke Langeveld's second place finish. Incredible ride by her in what she said was her second road race at the professional level. This is a former mountain bike world champion, second at the mountain bike world championships just last year, and just an incredible racer, and incredible that Boels Dolman was riding for her in this race. But I feel like Boels Dolman really missed out. Their tactics obviously weren't on point. They didn't seem to have a very cohesive chase. It definitely didn't help that CCC Live with Marianne Vos and Ashley Moolman weren't doing much to contribute to the pace of Van Vleuten. But I think at that point in the race, everybody was pretty much tapped out. I will give them credit for trying to get out in front of Annemiek coming into this final section of gravel. We saw a series of attacks from Chantal Bloch. Anneke Langeveld kind of opened the attacks coming into this final gravel section, and then not on Boels Dolman, but definitely up in the mix. American Ruth Winder launched a couple attacks herself, but yeah, there was really nothing could be done. We talk about Boels Dolman being the strongest team in the world and being stacked with talent, but yeah, obviously they are not unbeatable.
Yeah, Mitchelton Scott definitely pulled one over on them at Strade Bianche, and we are excited to see Annemiek van Vleuten back on winning form after her crash at Worlds. Moving on to the men's race, really a story of Deceuninck Quickstep yet again. This is just, I cannot reiterate this enough. This is a team full of closers. They had three guys in the final selection of the men's race at Strade Bianche, and all of them were pre-race favorites to win the race. That is outstanding numbers.
Yeah, and again though, it wasn't like they totally overwhelmed the race. At the end of the day, there was one rider up the road given a leash to go try and win the race, and when he did, Julian Alaphilippe, really an incredible bridge to the attack from Jakob Fuglsang. He went, I believe, on the second to last gravel section. Wout van Aert right on his wheel, super heads-up riding. And Alaphilippe was slightly out of position when Fuglsang went, but did get into a position, attacked over the top of the hill, and made a really strong bridge that no one else could get across to. We saw Tom Scoins making a valiant attempt, but just couldn't quite get there. But a host of other contenders in that group, Tim Wellens, Tish Benoot, Greg Van Avermaet, couldn't match the pace, and Alaphilippe was just totally in control in this lead group.
Yeah, Alaphilippe was infallible, and this is what I'm saying about Deceuninck Quick-Step, is it could have been Julian Alaphilippe who made the winning move, it could have been Zdeněk Stybar, and it could have been Yves Lampaert. They were all in that front group, and they just raced with such confidence. You know, Stybar, he just had to surf around in the chasing group behind. He wasn't worried at all. He knew that Alaphilippe had it, and if you were watching this race on the screen, I think that you probably saw that Alaphilippe had it as well.
Yeah, I think Alaphilippe not only had it over Fuglsang physically, but also mentally. It looked like he really got inside his head. We saw him, shaking his head a little bit after Fuglsang's pulls, maybe complaining that he wasn't pulling hard enough or long enough, gapping Fuglsang off on some of the descents. And then, my favorite, obviously, was when Fuglsang tried to drop Alaphilippe at 5 kilometers to go. Alaphilippe catches him, comes right over the top, and then does a little backstretch, tightens his shoes, just to show that he wasn't phased at all. But the real rider who probably gets the true grit award is Wout van Aert, the young Belgian cyclocross champion, showing that his debut performance at Strade Bianche last year on the podium was certainly no fluke.
No, just yet again, Wout van Aert, he gets 3rd place, second year in a row, and through pretty much sheer determination and, like Ian said, grit. It was such a gutsy ride. He looked pretty much equal to Fuglsang and Alaphilippe at the beginning of this winning move forming, but it was just a hill with about 15 kilometers to go. Wout van Aert got gapped off the back, and he ended up having to chase for the next over 10K of the race. He caught the leading duo right at the base of the climb, and at that point, he was not going to have the legs to be able to contend with any attacks up this finishing climb, but he grit his teeth and managed to hold on for a 3rd place, and for quite a while, that podium position looked like it was in question for him.
Yeah, the tenacity to ride with in groups. For me, it showed kind of what he's done in cyclocross races all year, getting away with Mathieu van der Poel, subsequently getting dropped by Mathieu van der Poel, and just riding like 40, 50 minutes by himself in between groups. This is exactly what he did at Strade Bianche. So I think mentally he was, very comfortable in that zone and just taking it all the way to the finish. Let's get into our big debate, because we've seen a lot of talk from racers, from pundits, cycling media, that Strade Bianche has risen to the place of a monument, some even calling it the 6th monument. Now, you probably know there are 5 monuments in cycling: Milan-San Remo, the Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and Ile-Lombardia. These are the oldest, most historic, longest, and hardest bike races in the world. Strade Bianche started in 2007. Is it amongst the world's best races? It's a great race, no doubt, but a monument?
This is a really, really tough question, actually, and I have to say that it deserves its place amongst those 5 races. It may even be better than them. I truly love Strade Bianche. I just don't know if there's another spectacle quite like it on the World Tour calendar. This race, it has really everything. It has the mixed surfaces that creates dynamic racing, like the cobbles of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. And the big thing for me is it isn't some ridiculous distance like the 290 kilometers of Milan-San Remo. When you watch Milan-San Remo, you only really want to see the final 30 kilometers. For Strade Bianche, it is everything that you want in a monument packed into 180K. It's much quicker, there's a lot more action, and it just creates a more dynamic, thrilling race. When these monuments were created, nobody was watching it on TV. We were reading stories in newspapers about the thrilling, epic battles of the race the day before. Now, we don't want to watch 8-9 hours of bike racing. I think that Strade Bianche is everything that an exciting monument of the sport should be.
Once again, you are completely wrong. Better than our existing monuments. It does have everything. I love Strade Bianche as well, but it is missing two very important things that make a monument a monument. One is age, which I have and you do not. And two is length. I mean, at 180 kilometers, it doesn't have that weight, that gravity, and really it is that waiting, that boring front part of the race that makes a monument a monument. When you have to wait 7 hours to get to the exciting point of the race, it makes that exciting point of the race all that much more exciting. I mean, I love the finish in Siena. I love the climb to the Piazza del Campo. But 4 hours and 45 minutes, you're just not seeing the same dramatics, the same pain and anguish in the racers' faces that you would see if this race was 6 hours and 45 minutes. Also, not having 100 years of history, that's what creates the stories. That's what creates the compelling storylines. I mean, Strade Bianche does not, Cancellara won this race, but it doesn't have a Tom Boonen. It doesn't have an Eddie Merckx. It doesn't have a Francesco Moser. It doesn't have the biggest names in the sport hanging their hat on this race yet.
I see your point that with age comes a certain amount of prestige because it is amazing. Everyone wants to have their name on the list of winners and have it be shared with the likes of Eddie Merckx. But that just doesn't translate to entertainment. And Strade Bianche, I think, is one of the most entertaining bike races in the entire sport. I get it, you're old, you're out of touch, and you want an old and out of touch bike race. But we can do better.
Typical of your generation and wanting instant gratification. But I do have one other point going against Strade Bianche is its position on the calendar. I mean, our spring schedule is already so packed with all our classics, semi-classics, stage races, and Strade Bianche goes right up against Paris-Nice, and as long as it's on the calendar against Paris-Nice, it's not going to draw the biggest names in the sport. I mean, it was super cool to see stars like Geraint Thomas there. Sagan has done it in the past. He actually skipped it this year in favor of focusing on the monuments such as Flanders-Roubaix and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But, some of the biggest names in the sport are over at Paris-Nice. I mean, Michael Woods, for example, is not at Strade Bianche, and this is a race that would really suit him. So until it can draw the best of the best classics field, it's not going to be there. I would like to see this race maybe move to the fall and alongside Il Lombardia. You would have two great Italian one-day races, and maybe even before the World Championships, leading into one of the other biggest races on the calendar and giving us a really strong fall schedule.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument, and whatever the case, this is an absolutely iconic race, and I think that it is only gaining momentum. It's kind of incredible to think that it's hardly over 10 years old, and we are talking about it in the likes of Paris-Roubaix and the Tour of Flanders. I think that it is going to continue to draw bigger and bigger fields because there is so much buzz around this race. And, maybe one day it will justly become a monument.
Maybe one day. All right, we are going to wrap it up, but we will see you back soon for a preview of Tirreno Adriatico.